Welcome to the Ucanic Garage. Today we're going to talk about why the right to repair is important, and we're going to give you an example. An example right here. A car that got shipped all the way from California to Maryland so that it can be repaired. This car is a hybrid. And before everybody gets so excited about hybrid and electric cars, we also need to be aware that these cars are to really getting designed to be like a one-time use, and then after that you either have to spend an enormous amount of money to repair them, or you just have to trash the car. And even though we're all getting so excited about lowering the emissions, we also have to think about these kind of cars. If they're only going to last 5 years, 7 years, then what is the carbon footprint to manufacture those cars? I mean, these cars have had a carbon footprint before they even hit the road, be that electric, hybrid, or any vehicle out there. So this car from California got shipped over 2,000 miles to come here to Maryland so that we can diagnose it and troubleshoot it. The owner got an estimate from the dealership to basically replace the majority parts of the hybrid system, and their quote they had gotten was $28,000. Now that's not uncommon. We have had several cars being shipped to us from all over the country because people are taking them to the dealerships, and then on top of that they can't find like a mechanic that can work on them. So I want to talk about the right to repair a little bit though. Right to repair is basically, if you own a car, you should have the right to repair. I mean, most people think they do have the right to repair their cars, but the truth is that the way that things are going, you really don't. So a couple of years ago, Massachusetts passed a law that made manufacturers be able to give access to the owners, car repair shops, and so on to be able to fix the vehicles that they sell in that state. Well, just recently, the National Highway Administration just informed all the car manufacturers they don't really have to comply with that law. It sounds like the National Highway Administration is giving into the pressure from the manufacturers that these cars, everybody they can't give you access or the right to repair because people are hacking into them, and therefore they're trying to avoid that. So what does that mean? Because it might be unclear a little bit. So let's say you're a shop or maybe a car owner and you want to fix this Mercedes, right? So you have all the different control units on the car, and then you can see in here that we can see fault codes, right? We can troubleshoot these codes. We can see if they're current or not. Then you can see transmission if there's codes in there. Well, with the right to repair, you should be able to see all this information. If you got problems with the airbag, maybe you just disconnected the battery, or maybe your battery died and your airbag light got triggered on because of low voltage. It's pretty common. Well, you just throw a code, it'll trigger on your airbag light, and also throw a code in the airbag module. But what you can do is, right now as it stands, you can use a scanner like this one or any other scanner out there on the market, and then you can go to the airbag control module. You can enter it, for example, and then we enter the airbag control module, so we can read codes here, we can clear codes, we can look at live data. Well, with having the right to repair, when manufacturers start doing it, they're blocking you for being able to see this. So you can't even use any scanner for troubleshooting, or most importantly for like clearing the codes. So once the car is repaired, for example, you won't be able to come in here and say, okay, erase all these codes, because manufacturers already are doing this. You have Dodge, Chrysler, and Fiat Group that don't allow scanners like this to be able to connect to the car and clear the codes or send commands to the car, for example, to say clear codes or test the sensor or do things like that. And it's being done in the name of like, we're doing this for security because people are hacking into the cars, and we don't want people to take over cars and things of that nature, and that is the excuse that we're seeing for manufacturer. What's funny is then the manufacturer, if you go register the scan tool with them and pay them a monthly, yearly fee to the manufacturer, then they will let you get bidirectional control to the car. But if you don't, then you can't have that. So it's very unfortunate that we're going this way. What you see here, this car being shipped over 2,000 miles. That's not just transport alone is not cheap, but you know, fixing the car, it's going to be even more impossible, because another thing that's happening a lot is with the newer hybrid and electric cars, manufacturers are doing things like they're making parts, a lot of parts of the car, part of the anti-theft system. So when your key is part of the anti-theft, and a couple other things. Let me show you. Your car today, you have your ignition, you have the ignition module here, and then you have the key. So the key has to be paired to this ignition module in order for the car to start. But not only that, on a lot of cars, it has to be paired with this engine control unit. This is what controls your engine, and then some Mercedes, for example, requires even the transmission control module to be programmed. What that means is that the VIN number is stored in this key, and the software of that key, and in this module, and the ECU and transmission control module, that all have to match. If they don't match, the car won't start. What's happening now, though, with the newer cars, manufacturers are just making everything required to be programmed. ABS module right here needs to be programmed. This right here. So what that means is that you can just get a used one on some of the newer cars. This module here, they can make this to require programming, and that programming means you have to go to the dealership. And this particular model this module is not required, so you can put a used one and it will work. But the newer the cars are, the more of these components dealerships are making that require programming. What's crazy is that right here, this is the hybrid battery. On this particular model we're working on, this hybrid battery doesn't need to be coded. The VIN stored in the software of this unit doesn't have to be coded to the car. So you can get a used one and install it, and you'll be good to go. But if you don't have the right to repair it, and with the manufacturer making things like this required to be coded to the car, you'll be locked having to go to the dealership every time you replace a hybrid battery. I mean, we're already getting people from all over the world calling us because they're far away from a dealership, or they don't even have a dealership in their country, and they can't do anything with certain parts of the car because they need to be coded. What's even more crazy is that this is your regular 12-volt battery. Imagine, up to this point, you think you can go and replace that. That's not a problem. But what's happening with the newer cars, manufacturers are starting to make even this to be coded to the car. It doesn't necessarily store the VIN of the vehicle or anything like that, because there's no software, at least on this battery, or hardware to do that. But the car needs to know how many amps, how many volts, and a lot of other specs that needs to be entered in the car's computer, so that the car can charge this properly. BMW has been doing this for a while. Mercedes has been starting to do this as well. But if you don't have the right to repair that vehicle, if you just have to depend on the dealership to really put that battery in there, then that's gonna be your only option. I mean, you're gonna pay several $100, $1,000 just for a regular battery, and those are just a lot of reasons why I think that we're heading in the wrong direction. And it doesn't have to be this way. I can think of a lot of solutions already as to still give people access to the diagnostic port, OBD2 port under the dash, allow people to diagnose cars, and still have things like telematics and advanced self-driving features. But unfortunately, those features are being used to eliminate access for the owner to the vehicle and access for them to repair them themselves. And then we're going to see cases like this where cars, I mean, in this case, it's still expensive to fix this car, a 10-year-old car. But the problem is that as we go into the future, cars like this is going to be worth less, because nobody will be able to even do anything with them. So thank you for watching Mechanic, and I hope this video informed you a little bit about your right to repair that's really going away, and these hybrid and electric cars that we're all getting so excited about, but we're not taking into account the cost and lifespan of these cars. If we're going to build cars that last over 5 or 7 years, it just is going to be pointless. Maybe that gasoline engine, efficient gasoline engine that can go 30 years, probably have a smaller footprint on our planet than these kind of cars. Thank you for watching Ucanic, where you can be the mechanic.